What other people choose to do will affect my life very little, but what I choose to do for other people will affect my life significantly. The greatest impact that you can bring to your life is what you do for other people. That has been the key to business.
The moment that I realized that money doesn't make you happy was this really sad moment, dude. I remember the first time I made $100,000 in a month. That happened to me, bro, and it didn't make me feel the way that I expected it to feel. And it took me a while to realize, like, money is like, yeah, it's cool, but it's a tool. Do you think entrepreneurs are born or built?
Oh man, I used to think entrepreneurs were born. I don't believe that anymore. I believe that they are built. For me, I've never valued money. It's always just been a tool. Having that perspective on money makes my risk tolerance super high. But the reality is, that's what it takes to be an entrepreneur. There's too many people that call themselves entrepreneurs that aren't. But at the end of the day, if you don't sign your own check, like, I'm sorry, you ain't an entrepreneur.
If you're not sitting on your couch at 12 o'clock at night one day with like your face in your palms, like you're not an entrepreneur. You don't know how to make payroll tomorrow. Bro, I'm getting goosebumps talking about that because like I've been there before.
Welcome to the JV Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Vasquez.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the JV Pod. I am incredibly pumped today for numerous reasons. The first one is I had my buddy Lamè in here today. He's been able to build a massive real estate business. He's an entrepreneur, but one of the best things that we discuss in here is the climb of actually building in the entrepreneurial space. This isn't one of those podcasts that's going to talk about the skill set that you need to have in order to get to you buy your first real estate deal and what numbers need to be where and how to actually find the specific things and how to analyze the market. We're not talking about that at all. In fact, what we talk about today is the guts of what it actually takes to build these businesses and what it takes between your ears. So if you're in any type of real estate, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're building something, this episode is 100% for you. It's one of my favorite episodes I've done this entire year. We talk about what it takes to build something successful. We talk about the intrinsic value of money and actually what it's like to build something. And when you receive money, what that feels like. We talk about faith, how important it is to have faith in your business. We talk about everything that evolves in you as a person as you start to create something that brings value to the world. This is one of those episodes that I know you guys are going to love. And in fact, you're going to love it so much that I need you to share this with people who may need to hear this conversation today. That helps us tremendously. Because if you do share this, sharing is caring. So if you guys can do me a favor, as you're listening to this episode, as something resonates with you, screenshot this, tag me on it. Let me know you're listening to this, that you got some value from this conversation. I know for a fact that's going to happen. And please do me the favor and share this. Oh, and one more thing. If you guys can also do me this solid. I'm asking for a lot of favors from you guys today. And I'm doing this because I want to continue to grow the JV Pod, which I love doing and having people just like Lamè on. Please go like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, whatever medium that is, whether that's Spotify or Apple. Please leave me a review. Doesn't even matter if you're like, this guy sucks and it's a 1-star review, which I hope you don't do. But leave a review because that allows us to get higher up in the ranks. More people are going to listen to us and they need to hear the value that comes from this. So I'm going to stop talking in this moment right now. You guys are going to jump into this conversation and I promise you, you're going to find value in it. Thank you. Let's get right into this right now. So Lamè, you come from a Tongan background, a big family culture that values community and resilience. When you look back, what lessons from that world shape how you operate today?
That's a great question. If I could, I'd like to share a story that just recently kind of came to light. My uncle, we had just posted that I had just closed on another deal on Instagram, and one of my uncles sent me a text of a story of my great-grandfather. And apparently when he'd come over from the islands of Tonga, he settled here in Salt Lake City, Utah, and he would essentially have a pool of money between him and all of his brothers and sisters that they put into this fund every month. And every month he would go out, or every 6 months, he'd go out with this monthly accumulation of funds, and he would go and knock on the doors of the properties that had for sale signs, and he'd negotiate with them a seller finance deal. And my grandfather has like a little portfolio of like 6 homes that all of my extended family all live in. And I didn't know that that was the way in which he approached real estate, right? And I share that because obviously my business, my background, everything, we buy creative finance short-term rentals. But I feel like that story kind of helped me kind of feel thankful about like, you know, where I come from, right? And the roots of just problem solving. Because I think being from an immigrant family, that's one of the biggest, it's one of the biggest things that we have to our name is just our drive, our motivation, and honestly, a little bit fearless because we come from like a third world country, like because my grandfather did not speak English. Like this is him just going, knocking doors and like just trying to do what he can to hustle, and I'm thankful to say that I'm cut from that same cloth. So,
dude, isn't it crazy to think about? Like, I think about this a lot actually. Like, my mom immigrated to the U.S. I don't know in '67 or something like that from Mexico, and she, she's got her papers now. Everybody, chill out, guys. All right, chill out. Um, but dude, like, I think about like my mom rolled out here with like $300, in cash in her pocket. Stayed with an aunt, started to get jobs out here, and kind of she ended up meeting my dad, who's American. But like, dude, just that thought of like going somewhere unknown, not knowing the language, and just showing up anyway. Like, dude, that like I'm getting goosebumps even just talking about that right now because I feel like that's such a. I think it's hard to even put that in perspective. I don't think people really fully understand what that actually is. Like, people don't just leave because they want to, because like almost like they have to. It's a survival to a certain degree, whether it's wars or the dollar's worth nothing. And just, I think it's such a great privilege to be able to do such things. And granted, I'm going back to the, doing things legal. Because I watch stuff here that's happening in the U.S. and it kills me to watch like families be separated and stuff like that, dude. And it's cool to come from that, especially when you recognize it. I was born here, like I'm very Americanized, but I have that piece of that immigrant still in me, which a lot of people that are born here, they lose that. I still have that.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that is honestly, it's a superpower of ours, right? I don't think that people, to your point, realize like the cloth that we're cut from and that perspective. I say this all the time. I think my grandparents were some of the greatest entrepreneurs that have ever walked this earth, because to be able to do that, to come over, not speak the language, new land, one-way ticket, know nobody, and to build the life, like in a lot of ways, that's a lot harder than building from where we've been, right? And like, granted, I didn't come from money. Like, we growing up, we were broke, and so there wasn't a lot to build from, but I didn't have to move to another country and start from scratch, not knowing the language. And so, I pay a lot of homage to the ancestors, right?
I'm with you there, dude. I got a question for you. This is actually something I think about. Do you think entrepreneurs are born or built?
Oh man, it's so funny. And I think everybody will go through this journey, right? There are layers to it. We both know that. There's layers to entrepreneurship. But I think if we're keeping it real simple and kind of bundling it all together, I used to think entrepreneurs were born, and I don't believe that anymore. I believe that they are built. I think there are characteristics that favor people wanting and choosing to jump into entrepreneurship, right? Risk takers, being bold, A-type personalities, maybe not even A-type personalities, but just like A-type hunger, right? I'm just going after it. Those are definitely traits that help, right? For me, I've never valued money. It's never been a thing. It's always just been a tool. And I don't know if that's just because like we never had it, but like that like having that perspective on money makes my risk tolerance super high, like more than most. And when I tell people a lot of stuff I do, they think I'm stupid, right? But the reality is that's what it takes to be an entrepreneur, right? And what I will say is there's too many people that call themselves entrepreneurs that aren't, right? They're first or second chair people that make great money on a corporation. But at the end of the day, if you don't sign your own check, like, I'm sorry, you ain't an entrepreneur, right? and so, but I think they're built. I think they're built through grit, right, and through the journey.
Yeah, I used to think, dude, that everybody had the potential to become an entrepreneur. Like everybody had that built. Like, in fact, I still kind of sort of talk about it, but I got to catch myself sometimes where I'm like, you can do anything you want to do. Like, I truly do believe, and we come from immigrant families, so like we do believe that anybody could do anything. But when you think about it, dude, like some people just aren't built to like have that level of like my dad. Bro, my dad was like not an entrepreneur. Actually, he tried to be an entrepreneur. He failed at it miserably because he needed to have consistent, like that's the Mexican part of me where it's like my dad was like, I got to go work for a job. I got to make sure I make this money every single week. It's stability. And like entrepreneurship is like the opposite of stability. I mean, it takes years to get to a point where you're stable. But it does like, dude, it's in the longer I'm in it, the more I realize like it's not for everybody. It truly, it's not. But I do think that people could build into it. And in fact, I'm going to ask you this question. When did you recognize that you had, like the ambition to become an entrepreneur? Was it just like, was it always in you, or is like,
Bro, that's such a great question, right? And because it brings to light like kind of my mental journey of remembering the steps that I took, right? I think early on, before you take the jump and jump in and you take that risk, that leap of faith, right? I was at a battle with my internal self of feeling like I was always worth more, right? I was at a sales job, like I was making a couple sixes a year, but I was so miserable. I was like, I hate this job, even though I'm good at it. It's stable income. But I also see these guys making millions of dollars. Why can't I do that? Like I feel when I look at them, when I interact with them, I'm the same, right? And so early on, it's a lot of that inkling, but you really don't realize what it takes until you finally burn the boat, right? And for me, that was my wife's father passed unexpectedly, good friend of mine. And because I did door to door. I was born and bred in door to door. I was running a team out in New Mexico. And when we got that phone call, we had to pick up our life from there and drive back. And then I had to do the funeral and then go back out. Like I had to go back out, right? And like that was the moment I was realized my time's not my own. Like this, like the last thing I want to do is have to spend time here and then have to report back, right?
Yeah.
And that was the moment I was like, hey, like we're sending it. And I burned the boat. I quit. Didn't have nearly as much money in the bank as anybody would suggest having to move on, right? We had about a 6-month runway and I didn't know what I was going to do. Like there was no like alternative plan at that time. It was just, hey, I'm just going to jump into this and we're going to figure it out. And I'll tell you what, when you burn the boat and you put yourself in a position like that, I really believe that people don't let themselves access that next level of mental, emotional, physical clarity of getting shit done until you finally get to a point where your family's livelihood is on the line, right? When it's either sink or swim, like you really find out what you about, right? And that is also the part where most people can't hack it, you know? And that's the game. And so when I made that jump, I burnt the boat. It was like, I don't know where money's coming from. I have to go and find it. That was the moment that I was like, okay, this is what they're talking about. This is what it means to be an entrepreneur. And I fully believe that you will never be one if you do not put yourself in that position.
Yeah, dude, it's scary to, and I don't know if you've been in this position before where like, I heard Cody Sanchez say this one time and I loved it. She talked about her dad, her dad was an entrepreneur, or still is. I think he works in her business and stuff, but I was talking to her one time and I was telling her like, oh, you know, sometimes it gets difficult. And she's like, my dad told me, and this is like a private conversation between her and I don't know if she's ever publicly put this out, but she said that if you're not sitting on your couch at 12 o'clock at night one day with like your face in your palms, like you're not an entrepreneur. Like you're like trying to figure out what it's about. And you don't have anywhere to like make payroll. Like you don't know how to make payroll tomorrow. Like, bro, I'm getting goosebumps talking about that. Cause like I've been there before. And those are the moments where you're like, it almost teaches you this level of like resourcefulness, kind of like going back to our, our heritage and how we were raised and the family that we came here out of these things. Like you find a way to make it work. I think that right there, dude, is such a strong skill when your back's against the wall and you don't know where to go and you're trying to figure it out. And you're just like, here's another offer. Here's another property. Here's this, or here's how I can find this type of money. Cause money's everywhere, dude. It literally is everywhere. And I think
it's in abundance.
It is, but it also like, dude, I want to talk about that here real quick, but it took me a long time to realize that. Like you talked about, like you didn't care about money. When I first started doing this stuff, dude, all I thought about was money. I remember I met this woman. Her name was Jen. She owned this company called ABC Boot Camp. I was probably 30 years old, bro. I was super crazy in shape. I ran all the time. I did this boot camp and she had like 5 classes a day. I paid $300 for 6 weeks and she had like 100 people in my class. The next class, she had like 200 people in. And the 6 p.m. and the 5 a.m. class, she had like, 50 and like 75. And I started doing the math, bro. And I was like, this woman by herself doesn't own anything. We're meeting at a park. She's probably making 40 or 50,000. This was like in 2007. And that was the first time in my life where I'm like, oh my God, this woman's doing this by herself. We're meeting at a park to run in circles. She's yelling at us, telling us to do stuff, but we're all showing up and that community is like so important. That's for the first moment where I'm just like, dude, this is it. Like I had that space, just like you talked about earlier, like you start to feel it. And then you start to recognize like, man, I work for the sales. I'm working in sales and I'm bringing in this company millions of dollars and I'm making $200K a year and they're getting the rest of the, multi-million that I'm making. And it's like, you start to like internalize that stuff. But I definitely chased money, bro. Like I was chasing money when I first started. I feel like I needed to evolve from it. And once you get it, and this is like a cliche thing to say, but I'm going to say it, everybody just hang with me for a minute. The moment that I realized that money doesn't make you happy was this really sad moment, dude. I remember the first time I made $100,000 in a month, and I had this mentor of mine who's like, one day you're going to make what you made in a year in a weekend. And I was like, yeah, that's awesome. That sounds cool. That happened to me, bro. And it didn't make me feel the way that I expected it to feel.
Yep. Yep.
And it took me a while to realize like money is like, yeah, it's cool, but it's a tool to like do all these things. And when you're living in, a space of like scarcity, or you're living in a space of, people are trying to make their paychecks work, dude, like you can't think outside that. You're in this like, space of like, what is that called, dude, where you're like stuck in this pattern of doing the same thing? I'm trying to think of the word.
You're in like a funk. Like,
yeah, dude, like you're just stuck in this. You can't think outside of it. In fact, I just talked to a friend recently, and she's like, I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm not gonna be able to do this. I'm like, dude, you have to get out of your mindset. But then I also realized that you can't take people from their mindsets. They have to like do it on their own.
100%.
Which is nuts, man. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it brings to my mind, the first time we took an exit, and it's the first time I'd gotten a 7-figure check, right, at one time. And it's so funny because me and my wife knew it was coming, and there's a series of conversations that happen, right? And like you probably had this when you started to make some good money. We started going down this list of our needs, right? What do we need? And like it really wasn't that big because we had everything that we need, right? And we really tried to clarify, what do we absolutely need, right? We have a house, we have cars, we have everything that we really need, right? Then it moves on, okay, what do we want? And when you start to go down the list, even with the 7-figure check, like when you have some lofty wants, you then start to question, do I really want to spend that much money on that? It's like, do I really actually want that, right? And then you kind of take from that want list and you move over, okay, well, what in this is going to make me happy, right? And you realize that as you go through the list of things that would make you happy and you start putting those things on the list, like one thing that I realized was I've had these things the whole time, right? Like my family, my friends, my people, like experiences, going to Disneyland, like all of the things that actually made me happy didn't cost that much either, right? If it was something monetary like a trip, it's 10 grand versus 100 grand on a car. You know what I mean? And so it, like, to your point, I think you have to arrive to this place where you realize, and you really can conceptually realize and really soak it in, that money does nothing for you in terms of happiness. It gives you opportunity to build and to create, which ultimately, like for us, right, for guys like us, like building and creating is ultimately why we play the game, right? It's the rush. It's the game of entrepreneurship. It's the excitement of, hey, you got $1 million bill due and you got 100 grand in the bank. Figure it out. But like at the end of the day, like, money is just a tool, and you start to it's really liberating when you get to that point that you mentioned, right? Of just kind of realizing it does nothing for me, because then at that point you're then building for the right reasons, right?
Yeah, dude, I hear you on there. And the thing with me is like when I got my first million too, like I was like sitting there thinking, like, I grew up in the 80s, dude. So like you make $1 million in the 80s. And I remember a kid, like people that were like millionaires, like they were like this, they had this like status and stuff to them, and it was like a big deal. And like now it's like not really that big of a deal. But I remember when I made my first million, dude, I'm just like, I don't know, man. I felt like it felt great, but it didn't have that, like Tony Robbins says, success without fulfillment. And the fulfillment was not in the dollar amount. It was in the stuff that I was actually building. And I had to like retrain my mind to realize, and Gary Vee says this shit all the time, where he's like, you got to enjoy the process. Like I never really understood that, dude. I didn't make any sense to me because my brain wasn't wired in that direction. But when I started to like actually pay attention to it, it is that process piece. And I think the parts that get you to that million are like the most important pieces of the foundation when you're actually building something. It's that clarity of like, okay, what do I need to do? What we just talked about a minute ago, where it's like, I got these bills to pay. How do I figure this out? Like those little pieces in the moment, it doesn't feel like, it feels like everything's falling apart, right? We have adversity and dislocation and like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But you make it out of that and you figure something out, dude. That's that little piece, those pieces right there are where the magic lives.
Absolutely. And to your point, right, you said something that's really powerful. Like, there's two things that happen when you realize, like, there's a secondary thought after you realize, like, oh, money doesn't make you happy. You then look back, and at least for me, I questioned, well, What was the purpose? What was the real ROI? And it's you, right? It's the character. It's who you. It's you. It's your ability to go and execute. Because now, if I lost everything, give me 12 months, I'll make another 7-figure business, guaranteed. I know I can do it, right? And like that right there is priceless. That's priceless, right? And that therein is where I believe the real game of entrepreneurship is, and that's in self-development of yourself at first, and then at scale, it's building other people. And that's when money becomes a byproduct.
Yeah, dude, I love that. Let's start a TV show where we just like, have you ever seen Old School where they like throw people in the van and they get them to recruit them for the for their fraternity? Have you seen that movie? It's like early 2000s.
Oh yeah. Dude, it's been a minute since I thought of that.
Yeah. All right, so check this out. I got a movie idea. Any movie producers out there, hit me up, or like TV shows. Actually, this will be a Netflix show. Lamè, you're just like doing your normal stuff. We freaking see you at Target. We throw you in a van, like a rapist, crazy looking van, one of those crazy like 80s ones. And then we drop you off in the middle of like Iowa somewhere, and the goal is you got to make $1 million within a certain time frame. And you're like blindfolded.
Oh,
you're like, dude, wouldn't that be a good show, dude?
Oh man, stuff like that fires me up. Yes, and like it would honestly, what it would do for people is realizing, like I'm telling you, like the money's a mindset game, and the only limitation that you have is the ones that you tell yourself. You know what I mean? Like that's. And that's why I think that would be a genius idea. That would be gas.
I got all these ideas, man. I got all these crazy ideas. Let's talk about real estate. This is something we're both in, and I'm curious your take on this. Like, real estate to me is just a medium, but what were you actually chasing when you got started?
So when I got started, and it's so funny because I think like there's a lot, like real estate's sexy. Like everybody wants to say they're a real estate investor, and I'll be honest, I was never that guy. Like when I was in sales, I never thought I would be a real estate guy. All the real estate guys that I knew, they look different. They act different even to today. Like I think people, when they see me, like a lot of people are surprised I'm in real estate, right? So it was never like a goal. But for me, honestly, like I was so determined to find a vehicle that ultimately could give me sustainability of income, but also was big enough to where I could like, and I've told myself this for years, I want to be a billionaire, like a legitimate billionaire, right? And that was always the goal. And so when I decided to jump, like it was just honestly at the time, and this was around COVID, the easiest thing to do at the time was arbitrage. Low entry, low barrier. All I had to do was just go find a landlord and I could just convince them to let me rent their property. And that was not a hard thing to do given I was a sales professional.
Door to door.
And so for me, real estate was just the vehicle that happened to be parked outside when I decided to leave my job, right? And so I can't say that I've ever loved it. I do now love it, but mostly because of the game it provides. But I'll be very honest, like I have a good friend of mine, his name's Danny Augustine. He's the CEO of Powder Ops. It's a product protein company. And like, honestly, he's a 9-figure guy. And like, sometimes I look at his business and I'm like, damn, that would be nice. Because we buy a house and it's like, that's just the beginning, right? Yeah. It's like, people are so stoked. They're always like, oh, I bought a house, next investment party. And like, us operators know it's like, all right, well, now the real work begins. Buying it is like, that is the easiest thing to do. Like, you got to operate it and make it profitable, you know? And so sometimes I wish I was in another industry, but I'm thankful because of what it's developed. And, and obviously now obviously we have a 9-figure portfolio now. It's doing really well, right? And so, but I do have days where I'm like, damn, it'd be nice to just sell a product.
You know what's crazy, dude? I don't even call myself an investor. I call myself an entrepreneur. Like, I don't think of myself as an investor. Like, I just don't. I don't know why, dude. I don't know why. And when I started investing in real estate, I loved saying that out loud. Over the last probably 5 years, I haven't been saying that. It doesn't even, I don't even, I mean, I will, because I'm showing up at real estate conferences and stuff, but like, I don't actually look at myself from that lens. To go back on what you said, where you're like, no, none of the people look like me. Dude, you're right. And I think that's such a superpower that you're like, because you're now attracting your vibe, like the people that resonate with you, that maybe look like you, that are not, what the typical cookie cutter real estate professional looks like. Dude, you're not that. Neither am I. And I love that piece of like being that kind of person. You scaled from, 0 to dozens of rental properties pretty quick. At what point did success start feeling like stop feeling exciting and start feeling heavy? Did you have a point where that hit you, Lamè?
100%. And like what I'll say too, though, is like one of my greatest superpowers, I think, is like I'm just never content. And so like every time I've hit a mile marker, I've always like been hungry for more. Like I'm always like, okay, this definitely wasn't what I thought it was. Like, let's move on. Let's do more. Let's go get more. Right. But I'd say for me specifically, and just to kind of give some context to those listening of my journey, when I first started in the game, I started in arbitrage and then I moved to management. And strategically, I didn't know that was going to be the best thing because I built a portfolio of 10 arbitrages. And then when I went to go market, I already have a portfolio of management. So it was a lot easier to close management contracts because I had some credibility, right? We scaled that to about 70, 80. Then I realized I hated dealing with owners. I absolutely hated it. And I was a terrible manager because I'd argue with them. No, you don't know what you're talking about. You're high maintenance. I'm telling you, we're one of the best in the state. And so I started to really think, how can I exit this? And that's when capital markets became a thing. I was like, hey, people always talk about raising capital. Let me go find a property. I already have the data. I already have the ops. I just need the money to go buy the property and scale, right? Yeah. So I bought a property with none of my own money, and that was an unlock. When I did that, I was able to pay myself on management fees, service fees rendered because we did all the work. Yeah. And then I was also to have a rev share and an equity split with somebody that brought all the money to transact it. And at that point, that was when I was like, okay, this is really something, right? And so from that point on, we've gotten really good now at the capital market side to where, today I have 24 properties under contract. We'll probably close on 50 doors before the end of the year, right? And that's just come from a progression of solving the next problem to the next to the next. But once I did step into the equity game, things changed. Because when that model proved itself to me and at that time I was giving away the farm. I was a minority owner. I was giving the one with the money 80%. I was taking a smaller rev share for all the work, but I was executing it. I didn't really understand my value at the time. Fast forward to today, we own 80% of our portfolio. When somebody gives me money, I know my value, right? I give them a fixed distribution. We take everything over the hurdle, and I own the majority of the real estate.
Yeah.
And those were kind of the two moments that I knew I had something special, and it was becoming a business, right? Was figuring out the model, but then at scale. Once we passed 100 doors, that was the point when I was like, okay, this can be something special, right? And we haven't looked back since. So
yeah, I feel like there's this quiet moment when every entrepreneur hits that, when they realize they're building something bigger than themselves. And
yep.
That sounds like you just remembered yours, that moment.
Yeah. And then honestly too, it's such a fulfilling thing because and this is the blessing and the curse of being an entrepreneur, being an owner, right? I went from, you kind of graduate from working for yourself to working for your family, right? To then working for multiple families, right? And that's the next step of entrepreneurship. Now on our payroll, I got dozens of families that are relying on me. And as an owner, I really take that to heart, right? For me, that means a lot. And so, to your point, it's when you start building something bigger than yourself, it's when you realize you're feeding multiple people, right? Multiple people are relying on you outside of your immediate family. And that's when things get real, right?
Yeah, dude. I love that, man. You said something earlier, and I want to go back to this because I've been really working on a lot of stuff that you don't feel content with things. You'll hit a milestone and not feel content. For me, that's been one of the biggest lessons I've had to try to learn. I feel like every entrepreneur has this and this is me just maybe talking about myself. There's this hole, this emptiness of some sort, dude. It's you're trying to fill it with something. Do you feel like you're in that mental space where you've absorbed and listened to yourself on that? Or is it just the innate drive of being able to build?
No, it absolutely is. And I'll tell you, it has. And me taking my first big exit that helped me really shift a lot of the perspective. And, sometimes I think when we talk about entrepreneurship and making money, it's less about the solution and it's more about how we approach the problem, right? That void and that hole for me is a problem that I've always thought, okay, well, if I build this, that's the solution. That's what's going to make me whole. And it wasn't until I got my first 7-figure check that I was like, okay, this isn't going to like fill this. So now I need to reevaluate the problem, right? And when you start to realize and view some of these, for a long time felt like incontentment, like problems within myself, and embrace them as like that is a superpower that allows me to continue to always go all in. That's when things changed for me to where now, like that contentment, I like that lack of contentment, I've just realized is drive. And I continue to just have a healthy relationship of knowing, A, it's always going to probably be there, right?
Yeah.
But B, to not be in such a rush to fill it with things that I know will never satisfy it, right? And being able to operate from that place is like so much more healthier. You can kind of like live with it and know that you can turn it on and off. But it's come from that principle of sometimes the fix isn't in the solution. It's how you approach the problem, right? And for me, that's what it was.
Hey everyone, if you are feeling stuck or not like you're making the progress you want in your midterm rental journey, I've got something that can change everything for you. Imagine being part of a community that's not only supportive, but filled with like-minded individuals who are driven to succeed just like you. Whether you are just starting out, looking to take care of your business to another level, my community is designed to help you break through those barriers. We're currently opening up registration for new enrollees, so if you're serious about building a thriving midterm rental business and you want to leverage my 10,000 hours of experience, this is your chance. Don't miss out on the opportunity to learn, grow, and connect with others in the same path. I hope to see you guys. The link is in the show notes, and let's build something incredible together. Let's get back to this episode. Yeah, I think for me, dude, it was like I recognized that like I would have these crazy milestones, dude, and I wouldn't even think about it. It would just be like an average Tuesday. Like I would do something that was really freaking cool. And I would just be like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And I still struggle with this, dude, because I feel like at some point it's like, what is it that I'm lacking somewhere that I need to continue to fill this thing? And not every entrepreneur is like that. I think again, you're in a space where you're like level. I'm questioning my own thoughts and my own way of like, what actually is this? Is this like, and I think every entrepreneur, like the best entrepreneurs that I know, they're crazy. They have a ton of success. They have like 3 traits. They have the ability to believe that they want everything and they actually will receive it. And on the counter end of that, they actually believe that they're not worthy of it. It's some weird thing that I see, dude. And the third piece of that level is that they have the craziest ability to have self-regulation and self-control, which is like so opposite in so many ways. And if you look at that from like a clear lens, like that's weird, dude, to have like, at first I deserve all this stuff. I don't think I'm enough, but then I have crazy religious amount of self-control. What? Dude, you know what I mean?
Well, and I think what that speaks to, right, is just the, I often think that to your point, right, because what you just described is money. It's gold. And it really is present in all high-level entrepreneurs. And I like to think that it just comes from a constant sense and yearning to become the best version of myself. Like that's what it is for me, right? Because like I have to believe that I am going to be a billionaire to become a billionaire. But I also have to believe that it's not just about me to get there the right way, right? And that's where that balance, I think, comes from. But to your point, it's like you have to be crazy to make crazy lifestyle achievements. Like
you gotta be a psychopath, dude. Like you literally have to be a psychopath to a certain degree.
100%.
You just do, dude.
And that's why, because if we all thought the same, we'd be like every other person in the world, right? And that's the beauty about what we do is we can oftentimes see what others don't. And I'm thankful they can't see it because that's what makes what we do so valuable.
Yeah, Polynesian culture is built on community, yet relationships are often isolating. Like entrepreneurship is like often isolating in a lot of ways. How do you reconcile those two worlds?
That has been something that it's funny, I keep saying superpower. I really think that a lot of these, what many would see as disadvantages have become very strong advantages for me in business, my culture being one of them, right? Coming from a place, and we kind of touched on this, of immigrants, of understanding where they come from, like that has helped me so much. I like there was a saying I heard the other day and it really resonated with me, but it basically was the quote of, how could you possibly know where you're going if you don't know where you came from? And like when you think about that, that is so powerful. It's like, how could you possibly know where you're going if you do not know where you come from? And so for me, a lot of my journey has been just remembering where I come from, remembering that my grandparents sacrificed everything, legitimately everything they had to get me here, to not squander that, right? To remember that I have natural gifts and talents that many don't have because I'm so close to the immigrant family, right? I'm one of the first generations of Americans, right? I'm one of the few that can honestly say that I've seen the other side of America, the other side outside of America, right?
Yeah.
And those little mindset things have served me extremely well to where when it gets down to it, right, you have to have a bag of whys because the amount of mountains that you have to climb in entrepreneurship, it doesn't come down to discipline. It comes down to your bags of whys. The deeper your why, the bigger and longer your resilience will be. And that's often why I think people quit is they just don't have a deep enough purpose. And luckily, because I come from where I come from, I have a big ass bag of whys, bro. You ain't gonna stop me.
Do you think faith plays a role in entrepreneurship at all? Faith and spirituality?
100%, 1,000%. Like, and I'm God fearing. Like, and I have a hard time with people that aren't, because to me it is the most logical like explanations at times. There's been too many instances, and it's repeated in history, of people that do great things that often overcome impossible feats, and somehow, some way, some shape or form, a solution provides itself, right, in the nick of time. And we've seen that in our businesses, and that is the universe working in alignment with what you put out to it. And how can the universe work in your favor if there is not a conductor, right? How can a car drive itself and get to where it's going if somebody's not driving it, right? And so for me, when I see these things of coincidence, luck, right, in entrepreneurship, oftentimes the luckiest guy in the room is the one who works the hardest. How is that like possible without somebody of a higher being able to navigate that, right? And I know there will be people that fight me, and I'll probably get flack for that answer, but that, to me, that's the truth. That's really what I believe, and it's carried me through a lot of trial.
100% agree with you, man. I think that there's circumstance situations that put you in certain areas, and God, I love how you say the universe too. And like, I think it's all connected. Like God, everything, Jesus, all that stuff. And I feel like when you start to vibrate at those levels, and like what I meant when I'm saying that is like the energy that you give out, you receive back in a lot of ways. I'm very much into that whole kind of like ecosystem. Some people say it's kind of woo. I actually truly believe that. Like it's because I know this to be true. And that's the way that I live my life. So I'm 100% with you there, man. I think that there is no such thing as coincidence. And the coolest thing about it is when you start to pay attention to those things, you start to see them. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it because I've had that happen to me so many times. That's where you're just like, oh man, thank God. Like here's the way, here's the path. But you have to be like in tune with those things, man. There's a quote that I actually love, man. It's we repeat what we don't repair. What cycles have you had that you've had to like break, in yourself to grow into grow into this version of you?
It's funny because I constantly feel like I'm always trying to solve the same problem in my own like mental space. And oftentimes it comes in different versions and in different ways, but it's the same problem at its core, right? And for me, it's been self-belief. It's been matters of like trying to like really believing that there is an alternative solution to whatever problem we're figuring out, right? And those all can continually be watered down to like your mental psyche, right, of what you're constantly telling yourself. And even me now, like I've now stepped into a part of my company's role of a true CEO/ownership role where I'm like I couldn't even tell you like the last time I've talked to a guest, like I'm just I'm not involved in the weeds. Like there's people at this point that know a lot more about, like people will like come to me for coaching, and I'm like, you probably actually need to be coached by Josie. Like she knows more about the properties than I do. But like because I'm now in this space like of being able to do it, like I've now realized that like, your job as a CEO, as an owner, really comes down to identifying and breaking mental barriers within yourself and everybody around you, right? And that's like constantly the game that I find myself playing. And it's such a rewarding yet like stressful place to be in, because at the top, you're funneled all of the shittiest problems, frankly. Like you're just always funneled the worst problems that nobody else can solve. But in that, you get to find, identify, and to break mental barriers of people around you to be able to see the needle move and to be in a new place that nobody but you could have gotten you there because you were the one that was calling out, hey, we need to be better. We need to do this. I may not know the solution, but I know we have to be better, right? And I know that we have to keep moving forward. And so for me, it's been a lot of mental game. Like that's been a lot of like self-development, mental barriers. That seems to be like for me the biggest and most valuable use of my time in my company, right?
Yeah. Lamè, did you have a moment where you like, I just actually recently hired a business partner. I brought her, I'm actually building a software as a service right now for midterm rental operators. She came in to help me on that end. And then somehow she ended up in our coaching business. And one of the things she did is she like pulled me aside one day, dude, and was like, write all your strengths. Like, let's go through all your strengths right now. Let's go through all your weaknesses. And in that moment, I realized like, I'm actually not a good manager. I realized I'm not like, I thought I had to be all these things, dude. Like, I think when you're an entrepreneur, you're kind of like, you assume there's responsibility. Yeah, dude. Like, yeah, people say all the time, like, you're going to wear many hats. Yes, you do. And you think you have to. But when you start growing a team, you start to realize like what my unique genius is and what I'm uniquely qualified to do. Nobody else, you have that, Lamè. You know what that is. Yep. It took me literally, dude, this is like, what is this? I'm a decade in. I'm literally learning this about myself, like right now, what I'm actually good at and what I'm not good at. Bro, it's the most liberating thing on the planet to be able to feel this because I thought I had to be, I don't think I'm actually a CEO. I don't think that. I think my genius is like creating things and I love working on new stuff. I love like getting my energy into these certain things and like creating new projects and I love that stuff, but I'm not the best managing of people's day to day because I'm too nice, bro. I'm like, you want to take today off? Okay, cool. Today's Columbus Day. Everybody else doesn't have the day off. Yeah, you're right. You can have it off. Like that's me, bro. I'm not the right person to lead that way. Like I'm good at like coming into a meeting and saying, like, here's where our goal is. Here's where we want to go. Here's the idea here. These are 3 classes I think would be great. Here's the ideas that other people said they would be great. Let's squash those. Let's put I'm good at that, bro. But I'm not good at the other stuff. Did you have a moment where you had to like a kind of a personal come to Jesus? Am I this person that's doing all these things? I think you said it earlier when you're like, I don't like talking to owners. I'm in the same boat as you. Did you have that moment?
And that is like, and one thing I will say that I've always been blessed with is just I've never had an ego when it comes to like roles or titles. Even, dude, it took me until last year to finally like clarify people's titles. Because like now at scale, you have to for like clarity of role, right? Like earlier to that, I was like, nah, we're all managers. We're all freaking we're all CEOs. We're all like janitors, right? That was like kind of the mindset. But what I will say is like when you really start to like empower people, like really truly empower people, like to your point, like that's really when you go far, right? And for me, I've always been blessed to I've never cared, and so I've always tried to empower people, but I will say because of that, I've seen the darker side of that, right? Like where I am a very good leader. I'm a very good empowerment guy, but my crux is that I've often taken too long to move on from somebody, right? I've also given too many chances, right? Yeah. And so we get to this point where it's like this single individual has hurt all of us because they've been here in this capacity for too long, and I just was too nice to pull the trigger, right? And so I think there's a pro and con to all of it, right? But to your point, like once you start to realize that, you know, it takes a team to go far, like that's where things really start to come together. So.
Yeah, and to go back on the firing of people that you know shouldn't have had so many chances. Have you ever been on vacation with your family, bro, and you see like a dude, he's on the phone, he's like pacing around the pool, like going back and forth, or like walking down a hall up and down. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
His family's in the pool. He's like freaking going up and down. He's in the hallway of the hotel. Like, dude, that right there is the people problem of the person that you knew you needed to fire and you didn't. All of a sudden, now it's landing back on your lap while you're on vacation with your family and trying to enjoy your moment. That right there, dude, is the moment that you realize, and so many entrepreneurs don't do this. They're like, I needed to get rid of this person a long time ago. When you realize that and you have this standard of like, in order for me to get here, the people that are here now are not going to allow us to get to that 2.0 version. You have to cut them loose. Like I'm going through that season right now, dude. It's a hard lesson to learn, but to go back of what I was talking about earlier, I think it's one of the most important things. And a lot of us who are, owners and managers, like we know who we should have let go. You probably know you should have let go of somebody a year ago and you didn't. And that year has costed you probably thousands of dollars in ways that you don't even realize or understand, but it just does. And I think, dude, that is a great superpower when you start. We were using the word superpower a lot today. What's going on with this, dude? We're like, superpower.
The Avengers, bro.
I know, dude. That's what's going on. But like, it truly is like this magnificent moment when you're like, this person doesn't meet the standard of what we're doing. There's something about just being able to say that out loud and then making a plan to either correct it, because you're going to put somebody on PIP, and then if they don't correct it, then you move on. But you already know, like, they're probably not the person, yet we keep them there anyway. That's a disservice to them more than it is to you in a lot of ways, because they need to get past that. Dude, every time I've ever been fired, and it's been a few times, it was the biggest blessing that I've ever had in one way or another, because I knew that I didn't belong in that place. They knew I didn't belong in the place, and I milked it as long as I possibly could in order for me to get to that next level. Same with everybody else, dude. It's the same thing. Some people just don't have the skill or wherewithal because they don't want to. That's a different animal. But yeah, dude, it's cool that you like recognize it and you're like, all right, cool. I got to get rid of these people. If we stripped away real estate from you, like completely, Lamè, what's left of you, man?
My family. Honestly, that's my drive. I mean, I told my wife, like, my big goal in life was to always just coach my son from little all the way to, his high school. And I want to be fully present for that. My son's 3 right now.
Yeah.
And so we got a few years on us. We got about 5 years. And so for me, real estate was never the end all be all. And I'm thankful for that. It's always been a vehicle. And I do look forward to the day when you can strip me of it, right? Because to me, my focus and my time is going to go to my family, right? And so I've been married for 10 years. My wife is my rock. We got 4 kids. My oldest is 8. Got a 6-year-old, my 3-year-old boy, and then my 1-year-old little girl. So I got 3 girls, 1 boy. But that's everything to me. So
yeah, I love that, dude. I'm in the same boat. My kids I got a 22-year-old, 18, and 12. And I'll tell you the other side of that, dude. It's crazy. I'm bringing my daughter in the business now. Like she's into it. Yeah, she's 22. She graduated from San Diego State, and she's an accountant. Or she's going to get her CPA in a couple. I think she's taking her test in a couple weeks. But dude, it's cool to watch them come in when they want to and start to get empowered. Like we have so many lessons that we could teach people. Not only just like Dan Martell said something I love, dude. He said he spoke at the summit this year. He was the keynote speaker. And he said, we are homeschooling our kids, whether we like to believe it or not. Mm-hmm. And it was like one of the clearest kind of moments that I've been like, dude, you're right. Like your kids are absorbing what you're doing, what you're not doing, how you're showing up for your spouse, how you're showing up for them, how you're showing up for your teammates, the things that you're building. Like, dude, you're teaching them everything and they're absorbing every single second of the day. Like you're homeschooling them, whether you like to believe it or not. Dude, that for me was like a really great, it was so simple. I think some of the greatest kind of terms or what people say sometimes are so simple, but it's just like, dude, I get it. That for me was one, dude. When Dan said that, I was just like, damn it, dude, that was freaking good. Why couldn't I think of that? But I'm going to use that. So Dan,
I love that, dude.
I know, man.
That's a really good.
That's a gold one, man. What lessons do you think business teaches us about, people? Like what lessons do you think business teaches us about people, like in general?
That's a really good question. I feel like business is oftentimes like a magnifier of like what people are really like. And I know that sounds contradictory because I know a lot of people are like, well, I have my business self and then myself at work. But I've actually found like how people handle conflict, how people handle money, how they handle responsibility, accountability. That oftentimes is like the truest indicator of what they're like at home, right? I have very few found people to be cutting corners and to be half-assing it in work, go home and be stellar. It just doesn't make sense, right? And so I actually think there's a big facade of people being like, I'm my best self at home. I'm like, no, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And how you do the thing that matters the most is what tells me how you do almost everything, right? And so that's why it's like, to me, I think I have the opportunity to oftentimes get to know people at a very intimate level, whether they know it or not, through the decisions and how they behave. And in that, I also get the opportunity to learn, but also to teach, right? To give and to take, right? Of some of these people. Because I tell my wife all the time, like, I learn so much from the people I work with. right? And on that same note, I know they're looking to me to share and to teach them and to give them direction. And so it's a two-way street that I really enjoy.
Yeah, dude, I really wanted to get into your portfolio and stuff today, but we really kind of went off in this like business kind of mindset trajectory, which I think is actually, I actually like these conversations a lot better, dude, because you can go learn about real estate anywhere. You can go listen to Bigger Pockets. You can go do all these things. Like,
Yep.
honestly, I don't think real estate's that hard. You know, it's
100%.
not, it's
100%.
really not, dude. It's not. The business part of it is, I think we talked about that earlier, you know, understanding that stuff. But you guys have a 20 something properties now. How big have you scaled because you have a co-hosting business, you're coaching, like what else do you got going on, Lamè?
Yeah. So, I mean, so we're actually now we're about 350 doors deep.
Dang, man.
And so we have a management company, we have a co-host company, and then we have our portfolio. We've since kind of let go of our, we've kept the legacy accounts, what I call them, of about 40 or 50 so of like management contracts. So the majority of what we do manage now is our own. And that's kind of the focus and what we've doubled down on. But within that integration, we own the whole thing, right? So everything from the cleaners, handyman, the designer, even the acquisition arm, like our own brokerage and things of that nature, like we own all of it. And so really we're kind of niche down on just being the one-stop shop for people that have money to come and bring money and invest with us. So
I got a question on that, dude. And sorry to cut you because like my brain will forget this. Are you talking about like hiring your own cleaning team? So you essentially started a cleaning company. So you've kind of like created this flywheel of all the things that you guys are doing.
Yeah, because at scale, when you're running your own property, you look at it a lot different as an owner. And at scale, you can push down economies of scale. With economies of scale, you can push down costs, right? And so now, like, and I'm not gonna lie and say it's for all of our properties, but for a handful of our properties, instead of paying a 4-bedroom flat rate of $200 per turnover, I'm now paying $20 an hour, right? Yeah. And so, like, that's what we've been able to manage to do. But it's, like, you can only do those things at scale, right? And so we've built these companies and they exist and they have revenue, but it's because I service myself, right? And so really at its core, we've kind of just built a vertically integrated business.
Gotcha. So did you essentially create all the flywheel? So you have like a handyman company and you have like all those kinds of things. You just brought everybody in-house so they're contracted to work directly with you. Pretty
much. So handyman, contract, everything outside of really just short of license work, HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. We don't do those, obviously, but everything else, handyman, cleaners, even the acquisition arms, right? Like I have a handful of agents that work under me. I have my own TC, so we write our own documents and everything like that. And then obviously our own portfolio. And so, but that's kind of how we run.
Where's your curiosity pulling you next?
Honestly, like I'm really KPI driven. So for me, I'm trying to get to 500 doors, right? Once we get to 500 doors, I think that's going to really, I'll be able to step out of it and kind of take a look of where I want to be. But there's so much to do when you have such a big portfolio like this that like right now, like there's plenty of curiosity on just solving internal problems.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
I'm with you. So you guys basically have kind of a mixture of everything. You got the private money side, you have the acquisition side, you got the management side, you have the, all the other things. So you guys are basically covering, I mean, you even have designers in the same space too, which is, I think is pretty freaking awesome. Dude, that's cool. Do you ever think we ever arrive, or do you think it's just constant evolution?
I don't. I really think that's that hole that I was talking about, right? It's less about the solution. It's more about the problem. I'm less worried about solving it because I never will. It's how do I take care and leverage that problem in that hole, right? And for me, that's our superpower, bro, right? We're just never content, and that's what's going to take us to new heights.
Yeah, if your kids or your mentees only learned one thing from your journey, Lamè, what would you want that to be?
The greatest lesson that I ever learned from my dad is in a quote and in a moment that he told me something that has always stuck with me forever. And this was, we were parked at a gas station. We were broke as hell. My dad and me and my siblings, we were all in a van. It was an old rickety van. This guy walks up to the window. He knocks on the door, and he has gold chains on, rings, everything like that, bling. Looks well put together, and rolls down the window, and he asks my dad, "Hey, brother, you got any change?" Without saying anything, my dad, meanwhile, all of us in the car are like, of course we have no money, right? And this guy has like jewelry. It's like, go sell something. Without saying a word, my dad goes around, pulls, money from the glove box, and he gives it to him. we're driving away. I turn back. This guy that he gave money to walked out of the gas station, and I see him. He has cigarettes in his hand. And my dad tells me, he turns to me. Well, I tell my dad, I'm like, Dad, you just helped this guy buy cigarettes. We could have really used that money. And my dad turns to me and he tells me, hey, what other people choose to do will affect my life very little. But what I choose to do for other people will affect my life significantly. And if you were to walk into my office today, I have this beautiful mural, and front and center is that quote in words, right? And that's because that's really what I like to choose and live like my life by and built this company by, right? People are often too worried about what others do. And whether it affects you or not, ultimately, the greatest impact that you can bring to your life is what you do for other people. And to me, that has been the key to business. Your network is truly your net worth. And whatever value you give to your network, it always comes back in spades. It's crazy how it works, right? And so for me, that is what I tell everybody is take care of other people, and I promise you the universe will take care of you.
If you can go back to that kid going door to door, what would you whisper in his ear?
I think I would remind him that everything that he's doing is for a purpose, whether he sees it or not. Now in my career, in what I'm doing, in the legacy that I'm creating, like it's a lot easier to see purpose. It's a lot easier to see the end of the road, right? But in those moments of like door knocking, of learning to door knock, like getting rejected, like grinding when all my friends are out partying, like it's hard to see, right? And so for me, I just am telling not only myself, but everybody that's in that moment, like I'm telling you, and I promise you, just keep going. Your purpose will become clear, right? It'll become clear. You just got to keep going. People tell me, they ask me all the time, how'd you build such a juggernaut in 5 years? It's like, are you shitting me? I did it in 15, right? When I was knocking doors, I was building those skills of soft skills of sales to close my deals that I do now. It's all part of the plan. So just keep going. Purpose will become clear very soon.
Yeah, I think it's hard to recognize that as you're going through it. When you're in that, kind of survival mode, you really don't have the chance to think outside of yourself and what's coming next. Like, my paycheck's going to hit in 2 weeks. I got this to pay. And then you're back down to freaking $200. And bro, every time I scan my card still, I feel like my card's going to decline because I know what that feeling is. I've been there before. Like, do you have that still, Lamè? Do you have that feeling of like,
I sure do, bro.
Do you have that?
Oh yeah. I'm just like, all right, hopefully grandma put money on the card. Like,
dude, I have that feeling still to this day. Every time I go to the store and I scan it, I'm just like, is this going to decline? It's like approved. I'm like, yes. I get this. I can't shake the feeling of what it feels like to have that rejection of like, oh, this is declined. Do you have another card?
100%.
And like going back to my, 20, 30-year-old self, bro, that was such a pain. It was like this awful pain that it was in my soul. But I think it's important to kind of recognize, you're right, man. Like the stuff that you do and that you've done in the past are some of the greatest things that are going to help you in the future. In fact, dude, I had this student, her name is Liz. She was a school teacher. She still is a school teacher. This is probably like 4 years ago. One of my first, 100 students that I had. And she's like, I'm never going to be good at this because I'm not into sales. And I started talking to her. And one of the things that she did that was so amazing, she actually built a pretty cool career for herself. She lives in my market, works part-time at a school now. Since she was a school teacher for kindergartners, dude, she had her ability to listen was better than any person I've ever met in my entire life. And if you think about sales, like a lot of it is like active listening. It's like actually paying attention, it's being aware. My first decade of sales, dude, if I was talking to you, like I was in healthcare sales. So like if you're a doctor and you're answering a question that I asked, I was already in my mind thinking of the next thing that I was going to say rather than actually listening to the doctor speak. And she had this skill, bro, where it was like, she would sit there and like absorb. And then I can see her like think for a second and then she would answer. And I'm like, do you see what you just did? Like it took me a decade to be able to do exactly what you just did. And you're doing this now because of what you actually learned high school or college at 22 years old, and you've been a school teacher for the last decade. You're far ahead than every other sales rep that's not a sales rep, but actually in this way. And I think people don't recognize that. And sometimes they need to have somebody call that out to them to be like, hey, I have this. And I think that's what's really cool about what you and I do, man, is that we get to tell people the skills and the things that we see in them that are, and this is something crazy about entrepreneurs in general. And if anybody's younger out there listening to this right now, if you just show up like early, like 10 minutes early to work, you leave 15 minutes later, your bosses are going to recognize that stuff. And I always tell people nowadays, like, dude, pay attention to that because people are paying attention. If you're a server now and somebody comes into the, they're wealthy and you probably know that. I feel like rich people want to help people, and especially if they see themselves in you in some weird way. So the younger people that are listening to this right now, dude, there's so many people that are willing to help you, especially when you want to help yourself. It's like a skill that they've built, and like people scan for that, dude. You probably do that now. Like you're like looking for somebody that has that skill set or is coachable or trainable, or like, I do believe that, you know, the stuff that people are doing now, they might not think about it, but it'll come full circle. It might not be now, it might be a decade. Like in your case, it was 15 years later, but now you see like the door-to-door stuff was the entire thing, man.
Absolutely.
Lamè, when all is said and done, the lights go out on the last property, the last deal, what story do you want people to tell about you?
You know, I hope that when the lights go down and, you know, it's the last story, I just hope that people will always remember how I made them feel, right? Apart from anything else that I did for them, like, I just hope that people remember, like, how I treated them, right? And that's what I always try and live my life by, right? Is people really don't care much at all until they know how much you care. And people will never remember what you said to them, but they'll always remember how you made them feel, right? And for me, that's what I really hope my legacy to be.
I love that, dude. That's freaking solid, man. For everybody out there right now that's listening to this, Lamè, and they're like, you know, I got my first property and, you know, I want to be like you someday and get 25 and have ownership and all those things. Like, what would you say would be like the three things, whether they're short, mid, or whatever it is, arbitrage, what would be those things? And you graduated, like, you're one of the few people that I've watched get into arbitrage and then turn that into something else. A lot of people arbitrage and they just let it go. They didn't kind of go into other business models. You and my buddy Rafa are like two guys that had a massive, like a big, you know, arbitrage portfolio. And he's like managing hotels now, buying all kinds of crazy stuff. And when you're doing the same thing too. So like, what three things would you tell somebody right now that's new getting into the game, how to build and how to start to continue to evolve, not only as a person, but as on the business side as well?
So I think the first one, and this might be unique, but the first one is like the first piece of real estate that you need to really invest in and you need to work on and make sure is ready to hit market is the real estate between your ears. Like oftentimes, like students come to me and they're asking questions about how to find a creative deal, about operations, about OpEx, etc. And they're not like, they don't realize that we have like you're not ready to talk about that until you're ready to talk about your why. So you're ready to talk about, are you ready to make the jump? Are you tired? These plans that people have, like there's very few that are at a place to actually go execute them. So until you're ready, this real estate between your ears, like other real estate won't come, right? That's the first thing I'll say. The second is that there's a million ways to make $1 million in real estate. So pick one, right? Like to your point, you mentioned three, right? There's under the umbrella of those three, there's even more opportunities of making money. And really at the end of the day, like there's too many that are always trying to find the niche. And at the end of the day, it's like, just be a badass at one, just hunker down, become an expert in that space, and then just attack it. And once you start to build and the skills that come from that, which is my third, other opportunities will naturally come to you as you go out and you execute, right? Like people often think clarity comes from planning. It doesn't. It comes from action. Like you only get clarity through action. And more important than finding out what you're good at is what you're not good at, right? Because that gives you a ton of clarity of what not to do, which the game of business is less about what to do. And it's more about not doing the things to not do. like it's more about avoiding the things to not do than it is doing the things right. Because in the game of business, it's really not a matter of best man wins. It's the last man standing. It's like you just keep playing the game and the money will follow. So those are my three things.
Yeah, I love that, man. Lamè, where can people go find you to learn more about what you do, your acquisitions, your coaching, all that other stuff?
Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me. You can look up my company, elkridgeinvestments.com, but for me directly, it's Instagram, lamè.kinikini on IG. And so I'd love to chat with all of you. So,
got you guys. I'm going to link his information in the show notes. Go check him out. Go follow him. He's got some really great stuff. You got your video guys are freaking awesome. Whoever's doing your video stuff, it's super clean. Looks really well put together. Go check him out. He's doing some good stuff. Lamè, love your story, man. I meant to talk about your real estate more today, but I actually really found a lot of value in discussing the other side of this, which I think these things here are like what's most important about building a business. So you guys got firsthand look to listen to Lamè, you know, through his successes and all that other stuff. So Lamè, appreciate you being here, man.
Hey, Jesse, appreciate you, brother. Thank you. Been a fan a long time. I appreciate we can finally connect. So
yeah, for sure, dude. Thanks, man.
Thank you for listening to the JV podcast. I'm Jesse Vasquez, your host. I appreciate you for listening. And if you could do me a huge solid, go like and subscribe to this. This helps us tremendously. And as always, thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful rest of your day.